We got an earthquake. The whole cabin's shaking back and forth.
A 7.0 magnitude earthquake rocks Alaska the morning of December 6th. More than 20 aftershocks followed. 2 days later, a quake measuring 7.5 in Japan generates massive tsunamis. Earthquakes are not uncommon along what's referred to as the Ring of Fire. But should we all be worried?
Typically, we think of earthquakes of magnitude 5 and greater as being hazardous, and in any given year in the continental United States, there's about 10 of those sized magnitude earthquakes.
According to the United States Geological Survey, there are approximately 20,000 earthquakes around the globe each year. That is approximately 55 per day. In 2025, we're actually sitting at approximately 1,800 quakes for the year. But what causes them?
In any given year, you're sort of pulling that rubber band apart slowly, and eventually you get to the point where the rubber band doesn't move anymore, won't stretch anymore. An earthquake happens right at the point where you would stretch it just a little bit more and that rubber band would break.
In parts of the world with active fault lines like Alaska and Japan, building codes are often designed to withstand seismic movement. But that's not true everywhere.
To feel an earthquake, often you feel a little dizzy. You're not quite sure what's going on because the seismic waves are whizzing by so fast.
If you're inside when an earthquake occurs, drop to the ground, cover your head, and hold on to a sturdy structure. Try to avoid areas near glass windows and don't use building elevators. If you're outside, stay away from buildings or trees that could fall.
Hola.
Fuck, pues estamos aquí en San Pedro Totoltepec. Se cayó una avioneta. Cayó una avioneta literal, me imagino que quiso aterrizar aquí en el campo y no alcanzó y cayó, no sé si cayó ahí y llegó hasta allá, no creo, yo imagino que, o a lo mejor sí, es que no se ve ni siquiera, no tengo ni idea, pero fue un avionazo. San Pedro Totoltepec, no han llegado bomberos, sigue haciendo explosión. Está cabrón, un mar de gente. Acaba de llegar el helicóptero, los sonidos de emergencia, no hay acceso para los bomberos, se necesita una pipa grande porque cayó un avión, se cayó una avioneta aquí en San Pedro Totoltepec, en el campo de fútbol, imagino, presumo que quiso aterrizar aquí para no causar estragos, pero Desafortunadamente no lo lograron y llegaron hasta las edificaciones que están allá, que son naves industriales. Estamos esperando los servicios de bomberos que no llegan al lugar. Van llegando. Van llegando los servicios de bomberos aquí al lugar. Va a estar muy difícil que pasen los bomberos.
Let's start by looking at the Wall Street, which closed mixed as investors digested already delayed and weak U.S. jobs data. While that is likely to push Federal Reserve to cut rates even more next year, investors remain cautious. In this next report, we get you more details. Take a look.
Wall Street's main indexes ended mixed on Tuesday, with the Dow dropping 0.6%, the S&P 500 shedding about 0.25%, while the Nasdaq gained roughly 0.25%. A delayed Labor Department report showed non-farm payrolls rebounded in November following a decline in October, and the unemployment rate rose to 4.6%. Eric Ditton is president and managing director of the Wealth Alliance.
The stock market did not like the delayed payroll numbers, even though the November numbers were higher. We came in at 65,000, was supposed to be somewhere around, or 64 is supposed to come in around 45, better, but it was October that got the markets upset with a loss of 105,000 jobs, which, by the way, that makes job losses in 3 of the last 6 months, not to mention that Mr. Powell has said it's possible that we are overstating job gains by 60,000 per month. So you kind of have to scratch your head and wonder if the data is real.
After Tuesday's data, investors are pricing in interest rate cuts of at least 58 basis points next year, more than double the 25 basis points signaled by the Federal Reserve last week. Stocks on the move Tuesday included Pfizer, which slipped nearly 3.5% after the drug maker forecast a challenging 2026 due to weaker sales of COVID-19 products and squeezed margins. Fellow health insurer Humana fell 6% after the company announced unspecified leadership changes. Shares of B. Riley jumped more than 50% after the investment bank reported a profit for the second quarter. And shares of Comcast rose nearly 5.5% after CNBC financial journalist David Faber speculated about potential involvement by an activist investor.
While President Donald Trump often touts a strong economy, the latest jobs data tells a more complicated story. Beneath the claims of resilience, the labor market is showing signs of fatigue. Rising joblessness and uneven hiring point to a slowdown that is becoming hard to ignore. But the latest data suggests that employers are still adding jobs, but not fast enough or broadly enough to offset growing pressures across key parts of the economy. Federal cuts, policy uncertainty, and disruptions caused by the recent shutdown have all blurred the true health of the job market, raising questions about how durable the data really is. Now, digging deeper, the weakness appears structural rather than temporary. Job creation remains concentrated in few areas such as healthcare, while goods-producing industries like manufacturing and transport continue to shed workers. Wage growth is cooling, long-term unemployment is creeping higher, and lower and middle-income households are feeling the squeeze from persistently high living costs. At the same time, consumer spending is holding up, but largely because higher-income households are still spending, masking the growing strain on the broader workforce. Economists warn that this uneven recovery risks deepening the divide between sectors, regions, and even income groups. For the Federal Reserve, the data adds complexity rather than clarity. The central cut interest rates by 25 basis points last week. The idea was to support a labor market that is losing momentum, even as inflation remains above the Fed's 2% target. Policymakers currently project just one rate cut in 2026, but further signs of labor market weakening could shift that outlook. At the same time, economists caution that shutdown-related distortions, immigration changes, and data revisions mean that the numbers should be interpreted carefully. For now, the latest jobs report is unlikely to settle the Fed's internal debate.
How much more will the average Canadian family spend on food next year in 2026? Well, let's break it down. A recent report projects that an average family of four will pay about $995 more, bringing their total 2026 grocery bill to roughly $17,572. What's going up? Well, for one, meat. There aren't enough cows to keep up with the demand, and feeding the ones that are around is costing more because of climate-related issues like droughts and wildfires. That's reducing the animals' food supply. Costs for vegetables and fruits, which fell slightly this year, are expected to rise next year. Vegetables about 3 to 5% and fruit about 1 to 3%. Seafood, dairy, and eggs will see smaller increases, while restaurant prices could go up between 4 to 6%. Now, experts say that climate change, supply chain challenges, and trade costs will continue to affect prices. But on the bright side, experts say that new rules under the Canada Grocery Code could help stabilize prices by creating a fairer system for suppliers and grocers.
Classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
We were seeing a lot of these.
President Trump just announcing that he'll be giving an address to the nation Wednesday night at 9 p.m. He announced this on his Truth Social page, saying, quote, "I look forward to seeing you then. It has been a great year for our country, and the best is yet to come." We also heard from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt about what we can expect from the address. Take a listen.
He's going to talk a lot about the accomplishments over the past 11 months. All that he's done to bring our country back to greatness, and all he continues to plan to do to continue delivering for the American people over the next 3 years.
Now, this isn't the first time the president has given an address to the nation. He spoke to Americans on the night of Thanksgiving after the shooting of those 2 National Guard soldiers right here in Washington, D.C. He also spoke to Americans back in June after those strikes on an Iranian nuclear facility. This address is expected to be a recap of the year that was and what's ahead in 2026.
CBC News has obtained an intelligence report indicating a realistic threat of a violent extremist attack in Canada. This warning follows the shooting at a Hanukkah event in Sydney, Australia, where 15 people were killed and dozens more injured.
This is a threat assessment. It's a few pages long, just sort of detailing the threat that our Integrated Threat Assessment Center has found through its investigation and warning its partners in the intelligence field about this potential threat. A quick excerpt from it reads, quote, "We cannot discount a lone actor or small group using readily available weapons, mobilizing to violence with little to no intelligence forewarning. A violent extremist act in Canada, including one targeting the Jewish community, remains a realistic possibility." Now, while that excerpt does say it's a realistic possibility, the assessment does go on to say that there is no known imminent or credible threat that they are looking for at this point, but it's something that they want the intelligence community to be aware of. They say that the holiday season with Hanukkah, Christmas and everything that brings with it, likely remain aspirational targets, they call them, for violent extremists. And they also worry that groups will exploit the Bondi Beach attack this past weekend in Australia as a way of further radicalizing other extremists to engage in these violent acts. The report also does note that, quote, "It is also likely that adherents of white nationalist and accelerationist narratives will use the attack, as well as the name and ethnicity released by authorities of the attackers, to encourage the spread of anti-immigration narratives." So they're also concerned about the impacts of the Bondi Beach attack and others once it comes out who actually stages these attacks, that they could be repurposed to help radicalize others.
Obviously, we wouldn't want to be owning anything that we thought was in a currency that was really going to help. And that's the big thing we worry about with the United States currency. I mean, the tendency of a government to want to debase its currency over time there's no system that beats that. You can pick dictators, you can pick representatives, you can do anything. But the people, there will be a push toward weaker currencies. And of course, that is, I mentioned very briefly in the annual report that the fiscal policy is what scares me in the United States, because it's made the way it is.
And this right here is the warning of warnings. You're not going to get a bigger warning from anyone out there in the economic world. When Warren Buffett says something this stern and says that the U.S. dollar is not to be trusted, and that he's deploying $348 billion of his own dollars into the Japanese yen because he fears the dollar is about to collapse. This is massive. You've never seen someone in this kind of position make a move like this massive. So all the record amount of cash flow this guy had sitting on the sidelines, which was ominous in itself, is now going out of the dollar and into the yen. People, you're not going to get many more warnings or signs outside of this. It's coming right around the corner. I hope you're ready.
And that's the big thing we worry about with the United States currency. I mean, the tendency of a government to want to debase its currency over time there's no system that beats that. You can pick dictators, you can pick representatives, you can do anything. But the people, there will be a push toward weaker currencies. And of course, that is, I mentioned very briefly in the annual report that fiscal policy is what scares me in the United States, because it's made the way it is. And all the motivations are to doing a lot of things that can cause trouble with money. But if you tell me how in a democracy you go in and really change things, we're operating at a fiscal deficit now that is unsustainable over a very long period of time. We don't know whether that means 2 years or 20 years, because there's never been a country like the United States. But you know that if something can't go on forever, it will end, to quote Herbert Stein, a famous economist. And we are doing something that is unsustainable.
All right, Shalom. Giving all praises and glory to our power, Yehovah. Bahasham Yahushua, Bahasham Rachakwadash. The honor to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be. Wherever you may be, to you I say Shalom, Yeshua, Shalom. All right, so we had a few final clips, okay, with not Bernie Sanders, Warren Buffett, okay, speaking about pretty much the U.S. dollar, and even speaking about somewhat, in a roundabout way, America. In the final clip there, he spoke about pretty much saying that it's bound to end, which is pretty much right. It being America. And I just want to hit a couple verses real quick. Because actually, one for one, speaking about the currency, of course, that's going digital. We all know that. We see this digital system underway. Whatever 2026 is going to be like, we don't know. But the digital system, digital currency, all right, ain't too far off. All right, look at the talk about the digital IDs, digital passports, digital driver's license, everything's digital, all right? Because we're in the age of this, this digital age of Esau, AI, robotics, all these different things. Okay, and so yeah. So the currency is at some point gonna get the switch flipped on it to go digital. Okay, and that's what we're gonna cleave to the Lord more than ever, Lord willing. Okay. But as far as Babylon goes, okay, I want to speak about that particular aspect, especially off the last clip there, because it is bound to end. All right. at some point. Okay. And you see this talking about the 250-year mark. Doesn't mean it's gonna just be completely gone immediately at 250. Okay, the Lord may let it surpass us a little bit and then take it on down. All right, but we're not going to be here for too much longer. All right, because we see what's on the way. We see, Jacob's trouble, the digital system, war, and whatever else is happening right now. So I'm gonna get this real quick. Jeremiah 51:6: Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon has been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. That's that Revelation 17, okay, and 5. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Also Revelation 18, which I actually want to get, verse 6, screams out, Revelation 18, her sins have reached unto heaven. It says that made all the earth drunken, because, its ways have spread throughout the universe. I mean, not universe. I guess you could say universe, but no, not universe. Throughout the world, excuse me. All right. America's ways, it has polluted many people's societies. You have places where their women were some way or one way, and then after America, they're another way through social media or personal travels. Maybe someone came there. Could have been even just a woman sent there to be an agent to uprise the people. Like you had to talk about the women with the I forget the name they call them, the head wraps and all that kind of stuff. Covering up their faces and started taking them off and rebelling. And then you have some women that'll travel to America and get taken by America's ways and go home a different woman. And that's just using women as one area to make a point, because it's not just the women, obviously. He's using the women as example. But yeah, all America's different ways, okay, have spread throughout a lot of different countries, and some of them are starting to wake up and realize, like, hey, this way of America is destroying my people. Okay, we don't want this here. We don't want your homosexuality, or we don't want you to. We didn't actually liberate us, or all the different things that America does. Okay, but it says Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken, and the nations are drunken of her wine. All right, her ways. Therefore, the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. Okay, let me see, the NLT says, but suddenly Babylon too has fallen. Weep for her, give her medicine, perhaps she can yet be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven. That's when they're going to leave back to shoot the missiles over here. And is lifted up even to the skies. We would have helped her if we could, but nothing can save her now. Let her go, abandon her. Let her go. Okay, yeah, let her go, abandon her. Return now to your own land, for her punishment reaches to the heavens. It is so great it cannot be measured. Woo, yeah, because it's going to be nuclear missiles. Man, hey, that was a good one right there. And I want to jump over here to now Revelation 18. Get a couple of quick scriptures here. Okay, because it said that this place can't last forever. All right, and he says something else. As a matter of fact, let me pause real quick. Okay, yeah, let me make sure. All right, so yeah, he was saying that operating at a fiscal deficit, like that scripture says in Habakkuk. All right, that they clay. All right, going to the Hebrew word ibayat, which means heavy debt, and how they don't know how long they're going to sustain it, but they're doing something that they can't sustain, because this economy is bound to crash, which is when Esau is going to try to reset it to the digital one. But ultimately, America itself is going to crash because the Lord is going to destroy this place. Okay, and there's something's happening that they can't stop. But these Edomites are trying to do everything in their power, crunch numbers, think their way out of this and that. All right, and they can't. All right, these economists, there's nothing they can do. These people can complain, but there's nothing they can do. All right, especially up the ladder to the top, to the bankers, the elite. Okay, there's nothing that they can do to stop their downfall out of power. Like it says in Revelation, their place was found no more in heaven. There's nothing that they can do to stop the downfall of Babylon the Great. It is on the way. Okay. Look, here's what we just read. Well, not read, but what lines up with Jeremiah. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. See? So I want to get here where it speaks about, actually we can probably get all this, it's all good. There's another one, verse 6. All right, reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, and double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. Okay, and it's beautiful how the scriptures here in Revelation 18 and 6, speaking about the destruction of Babylon. And then in Psalms 137, it speaks about Esau, Edom, with the people. All right, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof. Happy shall he be that dasheth thy little ones against the stone. So it covers the people. All right, the scriptures cover the people. All right, which more than just that one place, Obadiah, all right, Isaiah covers the people, but it also covers the land. All right, Babylon the Great. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart and her mind, I see the queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. That links up with Isaiah. Okay. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord power who judgeth her. Okay. Verse 9 says, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. See, Lord's going to destroy this place by missiles, man. Okay, they're just in a moment where they're seeing the downfall of it, but ultimately the actual destruction of it is coming. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silver, and precious stones, and of pearls, and fine linen, and purple, and silk, and scarlet, and all thyine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, because these are all businesses, right? Imports, okay? Which a lot of it just comes from China, period. Okay, I think I looked the other day in my Bible, and it said printed in such and such and such and such, and then at the bottom it says printed in China. Of all things, right? Of all places. And cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beast and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. Okay? America has all that. Slaves, because we're slaves to the system. The fact that we have to live here with identification, all right, social security cards, jobs, and all these different things. Okay, and also they just do human trafficking. You're not going to hear about it, or at least not from the top ones. Okay, Epstein was it's like a fish on a hook. We're just showing you this one. All right, and then they threw it off on Diddy. Now they're back, because Diddy is under the bridge now, somewhat. Oh, they're back on Epstein. All right, well then now Epstein and Trump, in photos again. And then this happens to that, and so it's just all, it's just all, what's the word I'm looking for? Trying to divert your attention, man. Okay, because they'll keep the American people, the bread of circuses, right, and then entertainment and distractions, things of that nature, while they really, move forward with what's important without the American people knowing. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. Okay, the NLT says the fancy things you love so much are gone, they cry. All your luxuries and splendor are gone forever, never to be yours again. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, that great city, America, Babylon the Great, the West, that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, all right, a great place of business and commerce at one point. It says that in another chapter in the Old Testament. Okay. Pretty much a city of merchants. All right. A great, I think it says a land of traffic. I believe that's in Ezekiel. And scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour, all right, in the NLT it says in a single moment, all the wealth of the city is gone. And all the captains of the merchant ships and their passengers and sailors and crews will stand at a distance. For in 1 hour, so great riches has come to naught. And every shipmaster, all these nations that trade with her, and all the company and ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city, to Babylon the Great? No empire like it. The ancient Roman Empire was one thing, but this Rome 2.0, Rome Revive, America, Babylon the Great, the revival of the ancient Roman Empire is different. Okay, and they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. And I believe it was Davo in the first clip where he was talking about Warren Buffett moving. I think the thing said yen. I thought the yen was the Chinese. Anyways, no, it might be the renminbi or some I don't know. Anyways, but the overall point is talking about him moving whatever X amount. I forget 300 something million or billion or whatever to Japanese currency. But it's not going to matter where you move your currency, man. Okay, now he may be moving it out of the American currency for a reason, but ultimately, all right, all currency is going to go digital. Okay, because that's Esau's ultimate plan. Okay, and he probably knows somewhat. Okay, but he's probably just moving his American currency, to yen for the moment. All right, because maybe he's has some inside information. Maybe he sees something coming, which we see these things coming through the prophecies of the book. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. The prophecies none shall want. Have made any other book nothing prophesies. Right? Testimony how it shines the spirit of prophecy. So we see these things coming too, just like some of these guys see it coming. Okay. So he's just moving. Basically, in other words, he's moving that money for a time being, because it doesn't matter where he moves that money to and what currency he moves that money to. That country's currency is going digital as well. Okay, and but back on Babylon, all right. It says, alas, alas, that great city where we were made rich, all that had ships in the sea. But that's those tanker ships, the cargo ships that come on that you see. Okay, by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate. And this is directly to us. Rejoice over her when this happens. All right. We will, salvation comes, Lord, will we be of that number? And we're going to rejoice with Yahushua and the rest of the multitude, okay, over this place, the last place of our captivity and the greatest places of our captivity. All right, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together here in Babylon. And the ultimate revenge will be the destruction of this place, captivity for their people for 1,000 years, and then the destruction of the people by fire. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High hath avenged you on her. Oh, matter of fact, let's get this too. And a mighty, because this links up with Jeremiah, one of those last chapters. I can't remember, it's like 53 or something like that. 2 or something, somewhere around there. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down and shall be found no more at all. Okay. And as a matter of fact, let me just precept that and get that Jeremiah, because it should pop up. There it is, Jeremiah 51 and 63 and 64. Yep, those are the 2 verses. Oh, here it is right here. Jeremiah 51 and 63. And this was Jeremiah prophesying. He probably didn't know he was prophesying about future Babylon, which is Babylon the Great, okay, the West. But he was prophesying. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates, And thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her. And you know it's not talking about ancient Babylon, okay? Because we're now in Babylon the Great. And they shall be weary. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. See? So there you go. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom, and because the prophets, you know, and all the remnant were delivered, okay. And the bridegroom, the voice of the bridegroom, and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee, because Yahweh Shah is the bridegroom, we're the bride, okay. Revelation 19, okay. Blessed is he that are called to the marriage of the Lamb. Just roughly paraphrasing, manifest in the next chapter. Hold on. Here we go. 19. Right here. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him. For honor to who? Yahushua. Okay. Well, beginning with the Heavenly Father Yahweh, but you know, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, let's just say it like that. Okay. It says, for the marriage of the Lamb, Yahushua, is come, and his wife, the remnant, beginning with 144,000 men, had made herself ready. That's the now. Okay. While we're able to indulge in these scriptures freely. All right. Well, whether we have to research something online, do some reading, studying, or whatever, listen to videos, you know, and just, you know, put in, you know, work, first and foremost on ourselves to the best of our ability, but also work in the ministry. Okay, that work is gonna one day be done. Okay, we're not gonna be prophesying forever. We're not even gonna be on the streets forever. So of course we're not gonna be prophesying forever. There's an end to this captivity, an end to all of this. All right. It says, and the wife had made herself ready, and to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. The saints are the Israelites. And he saith unto me, right. Blessed are they which are called into the marriage of who are called into the marriage supper of the Lamb. That's on that chariot, man. Okay. Pretty sure that's going to take place on the chariot. All right. And he said unto me, these are the true sayings of the highest. And as a matter of fact, I'll just get 10, because I wasn't going to read 10. We will get it. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushua. Worship the highest, for the testimony of Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy. And so, in the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, these other countries, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. That's Isaiah 47 again. Or 45, 47. Okay. Stand now with thine enchantments, right? And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints. You see? Prophets, which are Israelites, and saints, Israelites, and of all that were slain upon the earth. All right. Which you can say other people too, but we don't care about the rest of the nations. It's only about the Israelites. Let's see what the NLT says. In your streets flow the blood of the prophets and of God's holy people, and the blood of the people slaughtered all over the world. All right, but we only care about the Israelites, and more so the remnant. Okay, so yeah, I'm leave it at that. Just a little world news with commentary. So Lord will edify. Shalom.
But if you tell me how in a democracy you go in and really change things, we're operating at a fiscal deficit now that is unsustainable. Over a very long period of time. We don't know whether that means 2 years or 20 years, because there's never been a country like the United States. But you know that if something can't go on forever, it will end, to quote Herbert Stein, a famous economist. And we are doing something that is unsustainable.